What is up, everybody? Welcome to week 3 of the Fantasy Fuel podcast. I'm Matt Russell. Got my co-host, Mr. Chip Sparks. Chip, week 2, how you feeling?
Man, it's been a roller coaster of a week for me personally. Felt really good earlier this week. I would say up until about, I don't know, maybe 7:30 yesterday night, I was feeling fantastic. And then not so
Monday
much.
night game. Oh,
Man.
There's nothing like a Monday night football game making fantasy football come down to the wire.
So to put this in perspective for everyone out here listening, Matt and I, if you listen to last week's episode, we played each other in fantasy this week. And it was a matchup for the ages, I'd say. Typically, Matt and I have very interesting matchups. We're either very high scoring or very low scoring. It's never a blowout. It's always very close. And this week was no exception. I was up 40, was it 40 points or like 30 something points?
37.
I was up 37 points going into Monday, and all Matt had left was Aaron Jones. And it's sort of the whole day. It's sort of like off and on. I didn't know if I was going to be winning. And then, Sunday night game, Kelsey gets that was like 30, 40-yard TD run that he had. And I felt really good after that. I think I even texted you today, like,
I turned off the TV after that touchdown by Kelsey. I was like, good night, game over. I lose. Yep. Turned off the TV.
No, I remember texting you, and I was like, hey, like, good game. Like, this is going to be fun. Like, whatever, whatnot. And then ESPN projected that there was a 2% chance of Aaron Jones coming and making the comeback. And all weekend, the day before, Matt's talking, what happened last year? Because last year, week 2, Packers versus the Lions, Aaron Jones had 40-something points. And he was like, it's going to happen again. You're not going to win. And I sort of didn't believe it, but part of me deep down was like, this is it. This is how I go out. This is how it ends for me. And then unfortunately, as we all know, Aaron Jones went completely God mode, 4 touchdowns. And the worst part for me is, right, you won by less than a full point. So if 2 of his receiving touchdowns are rushing touchdowns, we're not having this conversation right now. I have a very different.
We would be having this conversation, I think. It just would have been
very differently shaped conversation.
Yeah, and he had 3 receiving touchdowns, which was the craziest part. And I want to add this part about our matchup. And this shows more about just our matchups. I know we'll get into that in 1 second. We'll get off talking about ourselves. But the matchup, the important part was we put up each 140-something points. Now, last year when you beat me, it was the same deal where you were the number 1 scorer and I was the number 2 scorer on that week. And I thought it was going to be a repeat of that, of me like losing again to the number 1 scorer. It's nothing worse than being the number 2 scorer, losing to the number 1 scorer. And, oh my gosh, yeah. And I don't know, I wanted to ask you this, but I forgot till this moment. Did you already, I was waiting for you to show up and be like, based on our bet we made on this podcast last week, saying, I already purchased your Halloween costume. I was wondering if you preemptively purchased it.
No, I didn't. So I'm more of a spontaneous kind of guy. I don't like to plan things out as much. So I didn't have anything planned out yet. I was waiting for the right idea to come to me for a costume for you. But unfortunately, I will be wearing the costume. Do you have any ideas yet? Is it something you're going to plan out?
I'm going to try to keep it football related since we're going to be on the podcast. And I got a couple ideas. But we'll see. That's not guaranteed. So it might not be football related. It might be no spoilers. So we'll wait.
Oh, man.
Later. But, all right, let's get into it. So, big takeaways from this past week.
Tell me yours to start off. What's that?
Honestly, I didn't put anything in our doc, and that wasn't because of laziness or anything else. My main takeaway, which it seems kind of cheesy to say that's why I didn't want to type it, but I'm going to say it anyways. This week made me really feel like football's back. I know week 1, of course, I was excited. I think I just was kind of blacked out from the excitement of football. Week 2 is settled in.
Of course.
I don't know if that's because the Packers won week 2 and that's why I cared a little bit more or what it was. No, I don't think it was that. But literally week 2 just felt like, okay, football is here. Having more bust, having the big weeks. I'm just so happy it's here. Fall's here. It feels good. What about you? What's your takeaway from week 2?
Well, I had a takeaway. But that was my takeaway, ironically, was taken away from me by the hands of Aaron Jones. I wrote in the show doc preemptively yesterday that my takeaway was sort of how well my team was doing. in the face of adversity, a lot of skepticism from not only around the league, but around the community around the league. A lot of people had some things to say about it. But you know what? A loss is a loss, and I'm going to wear it. But I stand by my team. First in points for in the league. I think that says something regardless of your record. You know, a 1 point loss on a 40-point game by Aaron Jones is not going to take me down mentally. We did a poll today. We did a power ranking poll. Thank you, Matt. We did a power ranking poll of our league. So all of our league members voted to see who we think are the top 3 in the league. Don't vote for yourself kind of thing. And I got second, and this is coming from before, preseason. I bottom 2. It was me and one other guy did not receive a single vote. So this is, from worst, started from the bottom and making my way up. So I'm pretty proud of that. I think, Zero RB is getting some respect on its name. So we're just going to keep moving that forward, see if we can try to get some more wins and a little bit less heartbreak on Monday night.
Yeah, I like it. Let's see. Let's jump into the bust.
Yep.
The people that just didn't show up when you wanted them to. Quarterback bust. We had Dak Prescott. They got the W on the last minute field goal, I believe. But
they did.
We saw touchdowns from Pollard and Zeke, but Dak just wasn't throwing like he did in week 1. Was this because I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me right now.
Yeah.
He didn't put up like single digits. I mean, he still had double digits, but just not the Dak type games you're used to, right? I believe that's why he made the list today.
I remember when I put him in there. He wasn't. I don't remember exactly what he had. I'm trying to pull it up right now so we can get the exact.
Oh wow, no, it was single point, 7.4.
That's what I thought. I thought it was down there. I didn't want to be wrong. I know that it was a very underwhelming performance for him, but not as underwhelming, I might add. And this is more or less bust. You probably don't have this guy on your team, but how about 4 interceptions from Wilson? What's
Wilson?
Zach Wilson.
Not Russell Wilson. Yeah.
Not Russell Wilson. No, Zach Wilson. Sorry. All the rookie quarterbacks this week has sort of struggled. I think Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence also threw 2 interceptions each. So a lot of picks being thrown by rookie quarterbacks this week.
Yeah, the quarterback situation, I mean, hopefully you weren't starting some of those guys, like you said, Lawrence, Wilson, Burrow, unless you're in a 2-quarterback league. Dak is really the only one that really hurt you, possibly. But I don't know. We had a lot of quarterbacks injured, too. Tyrod Taylor went down.
Mm-hmm.
Fitz was last week. But there's one other quarterback that got injured this week, too. Dalton. That's who it was.
Dalton sprained somehow both of his ankles.
And Matt Nagy saying he's going to be back. I don't know. We'll see. Running back bust, Kamara and Mixon. Sadly, somebody in our league has both of them.
Tough week.
They're not. Neither of those guys are in our later segment, but you worried about either of those guys at all?
No. To be honest with you, no. You got Kamara, who's Kamara, and Mixon, who has always been sort of like a teetering RB1, RB2 kind of guy, but I think that he'll be just fine. I think that his performance is a reflection of the 2 interceptions thrown by his quarterback. Didn't really give him a chance to do much. So I think he'll be just fine moving forward.
My big thing sometimes with these busts, especially on like early in the season like this where it's week 2, I'm looking to trade for some of these guys. Catch an owner when Mixon has a bad game and be like, man, Mixon didn't look good. Like, see if they're willing to. You can buy low on it. Now, knowing that you got to know your league mates. Knowing the guy who has Kamara and Mixon in our league, he's not trading either of those guys.
No chance.
Not for a low price like you want it. But if you are playing with some fools, maybe go for it. Wide receivers plus you got DK Metcalf. I saw somebody say in our chat something about him being was he not 100%? Is he? I didn't watch that game as close.
It looked like he was hurt a little bit. He's sort of like not necessarily really hurt, but it looked like he was favoring a little bit when he was walking around. So
yeah,
we'll see how that plays out for him. I think that he'll be just fine. He only put up 8.3 points, which is not a huge letdown. If you're starting him, it's not taking you out of a matchup, but it's still not the boom that you're hoping for with that high of a pick.
Definitely. And after that, the only other wide receivers we have here is Brown. I think we're talking AJ Brown and Antonio Brown.
That would be correct.
Yeah. What about AJ Brown? I know you're a Julio truther. So what do you feel about, like, is there a shift happening there? Was this just a bad game?
I think
With
that what you're looking at is
AJ?
sort of it's a very similar situation to what AJ Brown is going through. I think that they are both in incredibly similar situations where you have fantastic receivers that can only get so many targets. Like there's
Yeah.
only so many passes that can be thrown in a game, and sometimes that's going to be spread evenly, sometimes it's not. AJ Brown put up 5.8 points, and Julio Jones was. I think he got that touchdown in, but the official said he was about a centimeter away from putting up over 20 points this week. So I think it's just one of the kind of thing where it goes back and forth. I don't think that either one of them is going to be necessarily the wide receiver one. I'm sure that throughout the season, Tannehill is going to have his tendencies. He's going to favor one over the other, but neither of them are going to be unplayable. And it's the same thing with Antonio Brown. You have the last week, week one, he goes off, he goes crazy, he looks like the number one guy there in Tampa.
Yeah.
And then last week, much to my dismay, it's Mike Evans, and Matt is just pouring it on me,
Well, in week one, Mike Evans and Aaron Jones were the two guys on my team that put up like almost goose eggs. So it was really nice to see both of them bounce back. But I heard this somewhere else on a talking about those Buck wide receivers for the Tampa Bay. Somebody said something about, like, they call it the 2/3 rule.
Okay.
Every week, 2 of the 3 are going to do well. That's it. You only can count on 2 of the 3. You just got to hope you got year 2. Because, I mean, Evans did, and so did Godwin. Godwin caught a touchdown, definitely put up double digits fantasy points. And then Antonio Brown with like 2 point whatever. Same thing as Mike Evans the week before. So every week it's going to be 2 out of the 3. That's the magic number, I guess. Lastly, tight ends for the bust. Tyler Higbee, 1.3, only had 1 target for 1 catch. At least he's consistent. I mean, like, he caught 100% catch rate. Not bad, but no, only 1 target. Thanks. Yeah, this was a tight game with the Colts, and Cooper Kupp he exploded again, didn't he? We'll get to that part in a second, but Higbee, if you're a tight end, I mean that's what you run with when you don't have one of the top tight ends in the league. You're going to have those 1-point games and just hope you have less than you do the big ones.
Now, speaking of top tight ends in the league, who else had a bad week this week, Matt?
I love how you're making me say this one. This is a little foreshadowing for later. George Kittle. George Kittle had a bad week. 3.4 fantasy points. 4 or 5 targets. Still caught 4 targets. He just didn't do the George Kittle things like he does, where he catches it and runs for a long route. So I mean, yeah,
I don't want to get too much into it now. I'm not gonna throw anything out now. We got some time to talk about it later.
Yeah.
And then we'll leave it at that. Let's move
Yeah,
on
Kittle,
to some booms from this week. Who did you see that went off this week, Matt?
Kyler and Lamar Jackson. So Kyler, I'll be quick on because I really want to talk about Lamar. Kyler, of course, sticking with his 4 touchdowns. Actually had 2 interceptions, 400 yards. Man, they were – sorry, before I get back to Lamar, they were in a nail-biter with Minnesota. Like, was that good on Minnesota, or is that bad on Arizona? Like, where did that lie? Is it a mix of both? Like, they're in a close match with Tennessee last week too, I thought. Like,
I don't think it's bad on either team. I think that they were, you got both offenses just kind of doing their thing, getting some points up there. I think that both teams are going to be all right. Vikings, maybe not as much, but I think the Cardinals are going to be pretty good. Just a slower game for them.
Kyler, like, obviously put up a show, and he's got Jacksonville next week, so I think he's just going to keep the ball rolling. Lamar popped off and doing Lamar things. Now, if you were watching that game, and I know you were because you have the dynamic duo on the other side of Kittle and Mahomes. First of all, but surprised Baltimore won, especially if you watch the first 2 possessions. Like,
I'll tell you what, you said you're not surprised, but you can't believe. I am surprised the Baltimore won. They were in the fourth quarter down. What was it, like 17 points down in the fourth quarter? Came back, or 14, whatever it was. They were down. They were down in the fourth quarter and had some big stops against that incredible offense to take the lead back. And I don't know if you saw, it was pretty cool. Baltimore's head coach. It looks right at Lamar, fourth down on the last. He said Lamar, you want to go for it? Putting all the trust in Lamar just shows where that organization's at with him, where the trust is. I know there's a lot of people. I think there's been doubters almost every year, like, oh, this is the year where the shoe drops on Lamar. You know, you can't be a running quarterback and work out in the NFL. And I think that this shows the organization's trust in him and also his success in the league, that they take on, in my opinion, the best offense in the league and come out on top. That's something to say.
Definitely a huge win for Baltimore. It was really funny because last week on the show, I wanted to say this and I didn't. I wanted to ask if I could retract my Baltimore Super Bowl prediction because I made it. They were my prediction on this podcast week 1, but they were my prediction earlier this summer. Then when J.K. Dobbins went down, I was like, oh no, do I stick with it? I was like, no, I'll stick with it. I made that prediction. Then Gus Edwards goes down. And then they said it during that Kansas City game. They have 15 players on the IR. Kansas City has 1. And I was like, so after all the Gus Edwards injuries and all the rest of them, I wanted to retract my Baltimore statement. Too late now. We're going into week 3. I got to stick with it. But it made me feel better about that guess when I see them beat Kansas City. And Lamar, I mean, he threw 2 interceptions in the first 2 drives he had, and I thought it was over then. Like I was like, oh man, all right, This is it. So crazy he turned that around. Let's move on to running backs.
Do we have to?
I'll just do
we have to?
All right. Yeah,
Thank you, please.
First one was Derrick Henry. Big one, big week. Man, if you're a Derrick Henry owner and you got him on his team, I recommend don't watch the first half of the game. Always watch the second half because Derrick Henry goes off in the second half every time. I don't know what he does at halftime, but like a slow start. I remember literally looking at the points halfway through the game and seeing that, wow, Derrick Henry's having another bad week because I know he didn't have the best week 1. Put up 44.7 points in our scoring format. And the other one, I'll be quick because we already touched about him and I don't want to hurt Chip's feelings too much, was Aaron Jones, of course. 4 touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns. Really put in the work there. Speaking to my dark horse, I called him the dark horse for the number 1 finishing running back this year. Really helped me out with that. I know it's only week 2. He's running back 3 on the year so far, but we got a lot of time left. Just really awesome to see him bounce back after having a bad week 1. So both Henry and Jones had a bad week 1, bad for what you drafted them for as a first-round draft pick, and showed why they're first-round draft picks. That's good. Wide receivers, who we got for the wide receiver bust? No, I'm sorry.
We're at Booms here. Yeah. So wide receivers, I got booming. Cooper Kupp. I feel very vindicated. I remember our preseason predictions. I kind of copped out and I said, Rams wide receivers, but Cooper Kupp has making me look like a genius right now. That man has had 30 points or more in back-to-back weeks. In our scoring format, he is wide receiver 1 right now. Yeah. He was drafted in 4th or 5th round, just absolutely going off. So it's great to see him clicking with a new arm in town. They seem very in sync. He's just looking awesome out there on the field. Second, we got Tyler Lockett, and man, how about Tyler Lockett, Matt?
Oh, dude, this is what he does. He booms. He does this. He was I hate to say it because I didn't get him. He was an auto pick for me in the 5th round. Every mock draft I did, it was a 5th round Tyler Lockett draft pick because he was going in the 5th, and that just value is insane. He did go in the 5th round in our draft, just a couple picks before me, and because in that 5th round, when you're taking a guy in the 5th round, that's usually your flex position. For some people, You got 2 starting running backs, 2 wide receivers. 5th round is your flex position where you go running back or you go wide receiver. Maybe you take the tight end. So he was a flex position in that 5th round, and he's on top of the world right now. The question just is, can he keep on with it? Of course, Seattle has a great offense, but this happens where he's a boom or bust guy. So we'll see. But that was incredible. I like it. If you got him or Cup, you're probably winning most of your weeks.
Yeah, I like Lockett a lot. I think that he's the kind of guy where his floor is high enough that you're confidently starting him every week, not worrying about DK overshadowing him. But his ceiling is 50 points. Like at any given week, he could win you your league hands down. So I love Tyler Lockett. I think he's a great play for anybody's got him.
All right, tight ends. Before we get into our main segment today, Rob Gronkowski doing it again. Is this an every week thing? Is he a forever start the rest of the year?
I think that he's a guy that you do have to start. I think that given his, the first 2 weeks, his connection, his history with Tom Brady, there's just no way that you can like sit him on your bench. Like I wouldn't feel good unless I have Kelsey, Waller, and Kittle, depending on how you feel about Kittle. Unless I have one of those three guys, maybe Mark Andrews, there's no one that I would feel more comfortable with starting week to week than Rob Gronkowski, just based on his performance. I don't know about preseason, but right now he looks good.
Let me throw this at you then. If you say there's no one else, let me just give you one name and see if you're stick true to it. He's going up against the Giants. Kyle Pitts, Rob Gronkowski. One of our friends has this decision this week. He has both these guys on the roster. Who, if you had to tell him who to play, who you tell him?
Personally, I'm not sure exactly what numbers Kyle Pitts has put up this year. I think he's been fairly average, not anything crazy, not anything bad. But I'm looking to ride this high wave that Gronk is going on. I think he's getting enough targets to keep himself in the mix. Even if he doesn't get a touchdown, he's going to get you, 8-10 points and keep you in games, because I think that's a big – unless you have – I honestly feel unless you have Travis Kelce, you have a tight end who's going to keep you in games. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
You're looking for your tight end to not take you out of a game. And I think that's exactly what Rob Gronkowski does for you. He's going to be a great floor with a high upside play. Kyle Pitts is a little bit unproven, hasn't had that great game yet. The Atlanta Falcons haven't had really that great game yet. I think Calvin Ridley just scored his first touchdown this week, so they're sort of still trying to get things rolling. So I just feel a lot more confident playing Gronk.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I think the main takeaway from that, what you just said, I think you're completely right with the you don't want your tight end to take you out of the game putting up a 0. So they both have a high floor. I think Pitts and Gronk do, but Gronk has the higher ceiling. So yeah, you want to go for the boom. All right. The other tight end booms, of course, Travis Kelce. That's nothing new. Sorry if I'm brushing over it quick. I know it's your boy, but I think we all.
It's my guy. I love this. I love that run he had there. It was 30, 40 yards, something like that. Just no one could take him down. Looked like the guy out there. Fantastic to watch for Kelce owners.
Oh yeah, that was incredible. And then I thought this was a typo at first, because I thought you meant to put it I thought you meant to say Mike Williams in the wide receiver area, but Max Williams.
Yep.
Who's this?
I was wondering if you even knew what was going on there. This is a guy who plays he's the Cardinals. He is the Cardinals. He's a Cardinals tight end. Zero fantasy points. 1 target week 1. Probably sitting on waivers for good reason in most leagues. 7 for 7, gets 7 targets, 7 completions, 94 yards, doesn't score a touchdown, and puts up 12.9 points.
Now, are you picking them up and starting them if you're in need of a tight end, or is this a pick up and stash?
I don't even know if it's that, to be honest with you. I think this might just be one of those games where, usually have that random tight end that just goes and gets his points. I'm not even picking him up to stash unless you have a wide open spot. If you have an open spot and you're in need of a tight end, you're going to pick him up. You're going to hold him just and see what happens. Maybe
you got one of those guys who got injured this week and you could throw him on IR and then just pick up a free player. Sure.
Yep. That's if you have that kind of option, you feel solid about all your other guys. You're just looking for that tight end position. I think that there's no downside to just picking them up and holding them, just see what happens. But I'm not starting them for a while.
I agree. All right, let's move on to our main segment. So I'm so excited for the very first time in the show history. We have a guest on the show, so maybe y'all can hear from somebody other than just me and Chip here. We have one of our great friends, Ryan Cunningham, friend of the show, awesome fantasy football player, knows his stuff, coming on to help us out with a little fun segment. Ryan, how you doing, man? Let's see where he's at. He's joining us here. Calling in from Cincinnati, Ohio. So me and Chip are on each coast, and we got somebody. We got him coming in from Ohio here.
Hopefully you can get in here. I don't know if he's.
It's probably on the bottom of your screen there.
There he
Sorry
is.
about that, Matt. I thought you had me muted up from the main screen, but it is an honor and a privilege to be here. Matt, Chip, especially after the after the game of the week, game of the year so far between you guys. That's for sure.
Man.
Chip, you handled it. You handled it like a man. You were a little quiet during the game last night, but
That was intentional.
I know that was probably a tough third and fourth quarter for you. But yeah, it's great to be back, and I'm excited to talk some football with you guys.
Heck yeah, man. We're so glad to have you. Yeah, for everybody listening, Ryan's also in our home league, the main league you hear us talking about. We're all in a couple different leagues, but obviously we care about that one a little bit more, and Ryan's a part of it. Ryan, you and I battled. Sorry to throw this at you right now. Right when you jump on. You and I battled last year. You know where I'm going with this. In the what we call the hot dog bowl or the toilet bowl, whatever, the last place battle last year. Glad to say you and I are looking upwards this year, both of us, right? I don't see that for us.
Yeah, we could not be looking. We could not be looking further down than we were last year. That is that is a really, really safe assumption, Matt. I was gonna say in my opening one, that kind of win that you came back from last night, that's the type of win that changes a franchise for you right there. That's a great comeback win. That's going to change the fortune. And then Derrick Henry kind of did a little bit of a comeback for me as well. Basically what you were saying earlier about how the first half he had like 6-7 points and bust out with 38 in the second half. He came back and stole my matchup for me this week the same way Aaron Jones did. So
yep, exactly.
Yeah, we're putting the hot dog bowl. We're putting it way in the rearview mirror. And we're off to greener pastures. That's for sure.
I was going to ask you, Ryan. Since the loss in the hot dog bowl last year, I know that was a lot to overcome. Have you been able to reacquire a taste for hot dogs, or was that 1 week in which you had to eat 75 hot dogs? Was that enough to ruin it for you for life?
Never. No. My love for hot dogs, it's in here. It's not going anywhere. Even after a tough week, it's still buried deep inside you. Skyline Chili. I was sponsored by them that week. I gave them a lot of business, and I still give them my business. Chip.
It's good to know. I know how much hot dogs mean to you. Your Skyline Chili, like you said, and I was genuinely worried. I remember when it all went down. I was genuinely worried this was going to change the course of your life.
I was worried too. It was a stressful time for all of us, but we made our way through it for sure.
All right, so we're jumping into our main segment of the week. So happy to have Ryan here to settle some debates for us. So this might be the first time Chip and I really get into a big debate. This segment we call Panic or Patience. So basically, we're going to look at we decided three, close to like a bunch of players, but we're mainly going to talk about three players here that probably had 2 back-to-back bad weeks. So started off the year bad, right? Started off the year not what you drafted them for. Week 1, week 2, we only have a small sample size, but I don't know. We've all been in the hot seat week 2 where you're 0-2, or maybe you won by the skin of your teeth and somehow you put up a 90-point week as a team, and now you're panicking. So we're going to try to talk about these three players, whether you should panic or you should have some patience. Just wait. You draft them, high price for a reason, and they're going to work out. So we're going to talk about them. Each of these players we picked specifically because Chip and I disagree on whether or not you should panic or be patient. So we're both going to plead our case. Ryan's going to be the tiebreaker. So we're gonna try to convince Ryan the best we can. We're in the fantasy courtroom right here, and Ryan's the judge. So we're making our case, and we'll see what he has to say, whether he's going to agree with us. So you ready, Chip?
Always. I'm always ready to debate with you, Matt.
Yeah, I say the amount of times we've argued in our life about sports, we were primed for this. We're ready for this. Chip and I know all your tactics, so I'm going to be digging low on some of these.
I think this segment's going to be our springboard. It's going to get us a show spot on ESPN, and this is what it want to be. Takes our career to the next level. So I'm excited. The
question is, which one of us is Stephen A. That's just going to be start screaming?
I think we know. We know who's going to be Stephen A.
All right. So let's start with the first one. First one, Saquon Barkley. Everybody's wondering, if you are a Saquon Barkley owner, putting up 3.2 points week 1, 7.9 points week 2, what do I do? Am I selling them? Am I shipping them? Do I panic, or do I share some patience? I'm starting off. All right, I'm going first, and I'm on the patient side. So I'll say, look, you drafted Saquon Barkley. Some of you might have got him at what you feel like is a discount. You might be questioning that discount now if you got him at the back of the first round, but he's still a first-round running back. He's still Saquon Barkley. For my argument, I wish I could have brought in just a picture of the man's quads, and then I would have. That's all I needed. I could have left it there, but no. Let me look at this. I'll put it this way: Game 1, Week 1, 48% of snaps. 48%. It's less than 50. And if we know our math there. I don't know if Saquon, other than being injured, has ever had less than 50% snaps. So based on that knowledge, I like to think he still was a little bit injured from last year, which I know you could say, okay, he's injured. That might be why it's time to panic because he's not coming back. But he's still he's getting back there. He's not back to normal just yet. He wasn't Week 1. Week 2, 84% of snaps. Now, first, I thought that was a little bit low for a workhorse. I did some research looking back on previous years. He averages around 88% of snaps, around that range. So he's not usually a 90% plus workload. So that 84 is back to where we want. Now, notice Week 1, 3.7 points. Week 2, back to the more normal snap counts. He's up to 8.9 points, or 7 point. What do we say? 7.9 on our scoring format. So he's getting up there. Now he was a top 10 player before injury. He's going to get back there. He still owns the backfield. Nobody else in the backfield is even touching the ball more than 3 times a game. We know volume is king in fantasy. He's going to get that volume. He's the best player on the team. You got to give him the ball. Lastly, my main points. He went up against Denver when he was still partly injured. And then last week when he played the full game, he went up against Washington and Chase Young and that incredible defensive front. Danny Dimes was running for his life. It's hard to have a game when that happens. And last thing I'll say, this is a make or break it week. He plays against Atlanta. And I think we have a common theme on this podcast, Chip. Whoever's playing Atlanta, you're putting them in the starting lineup. So he's playing Atlanta. It's a make it or break it game. Now I'll say if he's on there for 80% of snaps again and he still doesn't get double digits against Atlanta, I will join your side and panic with you. But for now, pump the brakes. We still got one more week before we can say anything drastic. Chip?
Let me try to persuade you, Ryan, because I think Matt just made a good point. He's talking about, percentage of snaps that he's playing, all this great stuff, very important fantasy numbers. Talking about legs. Legs are a big part of running. I'm not sure if you knew that, Ryan. But so big legs mean big run, according to Matt. So, he's a math teacher. He's not a logic teacher. I got to give him credit there. So what I want to talk about, another very important statistic, offensive line. Okay. You can have the best running back to ever play the game, but if you put a high school offensive line in front of him and have him play an NFL level talent defense, he's not going to go anywhere. You have to be able to get somewhere in order to be able to run the ball. That's a big part of it. Matt, I know we were talking about how running works. In order to be able to run forward, you have to have a place to go. So if there's a big brick wall in front of you that's stopping you from going anywhere, you're not going to go anywhere, Matt. So if you have the worst.
I would have called objection. You just called it the NFL offensive line compared to a high school offensive line.
No. I didn't compare them. I said if you did give him a high school offensive line, right. What I am going to liken them to is the worst offensive line in the NFL according to PFF this year. The worst offensive line. There is no offensive line worse than that. And I don't think that there could be a worse situation for a running back coming off of injury to walk into an offense where he has the worst offensive line, no matter how many snaps he's playing, no matter who's behind him. You can't help yourself if you have offensive linemen who are getting you tackled in the backfield every time you touch the ball. I also think that there's not a lot of evidence that he's back to where he was pre-injury. Pre-injury, that man was a tank, very apparent top 10 running back. You're looking to get him very early on in the first round, and he's a guy that you're looking to win your league. This year, Saquon Barkley is not going to win your league. There's no chance that this man comes back and has any kind of a year that people have hoped for him to have. He was injured last year. Like you said, to your point, week 1, you thought he might have been still injured. I don't know if you've ever been injured before. I have been many times in my life through sports, been injured. The hardest thing to do is to come back from an injury while you're rushing it. And if you think that he wasn't healthy first week, he had a shortened week, he's just going to it's just going to compound, and it's going to be a season-long issue where he's never going to become fully healthy. That offensive line is not going to do him any favors, and he's going to be sitting there every single week and you're going to be starting him, and you're going to be sad when he scores you 10 points a week. He's going to score you 9 points this week. He might get you 13 points, and you're going to say, oh my God, Saquon Barkley, he's coming back. He got 13 points this week. He might get you a touchdown, and that might be the best day of your life if you own Saquon Barkley. But he is not going to be the running back that you drafted him to be. And if I own Saquon Barkley, I'm selling him on hype, and I'm getting for anything that I can right now. I'm not selling him below his value. He's still, he's going to get you some value right now. So I'm trying to extract that value. I'm trying to get rid of him and get some guys on my team who I can rely on and who can win me the league.
Wow. What amazing points between Matt referencing Saquon's quads and Chip doing a caveman rendition of big leg equals big run. I mean, like the highlights are all over the place. But so the way I approach the situation, it is concerning. His first couple of weeks are very concerning. For you, it depends. For me, this is going to be what's your record going into this? I think the guy who owns him in our league is 2-0. So obviously he could probably be a little more patient than somebody who's 0-2. You don't want to find yourself 0-3, 0-4, staring the consolation bracket straight in the face. So what I saw in the Thursday night game against Washington, Saquon was getting hit behind the line 2-3 yards, and then he broke off one big run. But that's traditionally been the recipe, even in Saquon's best year. Because he'd break off a huge run, get a touchdown, get a huge heavy workload, a lot of catches, even if it's like 6 catches for like 20 yards or 7 catches for 30 yards, and he stacks up points that way. I looked ahead at Saquon's schedule. I saw Atlanta this upcoming week, and I agree, Matt. I think this week will basically tell us almost everything we need to know, because we've seen his snap percentage go up and up each week, and you expect him to be at 70, 75% load. And if he doesn't have a big week this upcoming week, I'd start to get concerned. And then after that, we have New Orleans, who just gave up 20 plus points to Christian McCaffrey, Dallas, who just gave up a bunch of chunk runs to Austin Eckler, and then the Rams upcoming after that, where David Montgomery ran for about 100 yards and a touchdown against them. So I am in on Saquon. I'm willing to be patient with him. I'm willing to see it through. I just think there's so much talent there. There's so much workload, and I see a good path forward for him, even though these first 2 weeks have been very concerning.
That offensive line doesn't scare you at all. You said it yourself. He's getting taken down in the backfield, 2-3 yards back there. You think he can overcome that?
I think that the offensive line is definitely a concern, but the recipe for him has always been a heavy workload and one big run or a few big runs. He's going to get hit in the backfield. He's going to have a couple of negative rushes, but with the big playability that he brings and the heavy workload and the snap percent and the easier schedule coming up for me, I would try to sell him after maybe Atlanta or like a big game when you can extract a little more value, because his value is on an all-time low right now.
Well, I'll add, Chip, you said something that made me mad, because I wanted to put that in there and I literally forgot. Talking about he just came off a short week. Like, they played on Thursday, so they had a Sunday to Thursday, that short turnaround, which doesn't help if you're injured, to your point. And on the flip side of it, just played on Thursday and now doesn't play again until the next Sunday. This is a long rest. So really 10 whole days to rest. So that adds more to the he's going to be more well rested for this Atlanta game, but also really means it's a make or break it week, because
that's what I was going to say while you were saying is, you're exactly right. He's got the rest, so he's going to have that time to come back, get ready for it. They're playing Atlanta. So if he doesn't perform this week, I'm so far out on Saquon Barkley, it's not even funny. I'm out on him to begin with, but if he does not show up this week, he's nothing.
All right, let's move to the next one, because I know we got 2 more guys to talk about here. The next one, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 8.7 points week 1 and 2.6 points week 2. Did he get 2.6 in our? Oh, I got 1.6 in another. Depends on.
Maybe I wiped it in, but he didn't score a lot for you, right? He had that fumble at the end of the game.
You're upset. You kick this one off.
All right. So let's look at it, right? You have the best offense in football, straight up. There's no way around it. You have one of the best quarterbacks, the absolute generational talent in Patrick Mahomes. You have the fastest man in football, Tyreek Hill. It is unbelievable watching him work. When he catches that ball and he has open space, there's no one catching him. I don't care if you're DK Metcalf running up there. You're not going to be able to catch Tyreek Hill, and you have the best tight end to ever live in Travis Kelce. So if you have all of these weapons, right, it's exactly like it comes around in the Tampa Bay offense. So you said the 2/3 rule. Now there's 4 options because you got a running back who's pretty good as well. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has fallen victim to other people on his team doing well. Week 1, Tyreek goes off. Week 2, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes both have great games. Let's say last week, right, or this current week, 2 days ago on Sunday, let's say Travis Kelce drops down on the 1 yard line there, and you get a nice rushing touchdown from Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and you don't have that fumble. Are we having this conversation right now? Is Clyde Edwards-Helaire even on this list? I think that his particular situation is a matter of happenstance. It's a matter of the situations that he's been in, and his time is coming. He's going to get that floor back up where he's getting the touches, and he gets a touchdown in there, here and there. And if you're owning him, you feel a lot more confident putting him in every week. I think that these first two weeks are a fluke. I am sitting back very comfortably if he's on my team, knowing that better days are ahead, and this is not the time to panic for me.
I wish I had a panic button right now because I'd click it. I want to hear the alarms, sound the alarms, red alert. No, I am panicking if I'm a Clyde Edwards-Helaire owner. Let me say this to start the argument. If this is my RB2, then I'm really panicking. If this is my flex, I'm not panicking as much. So it depends on where you got him in the draft, how many people people are in your league, so how deep of a league you are. This guy, he had no targets in last week's game. No targets. And only 3 targets in week 1. Mahomes came out like all offseason talking about how we're going to evolve our Clyde in the passing game. We're going to be passing to our running backs a lot more. And then yet he's barely even targeting his backs out of the backfield. Now, this was a big game, of course, in Baltimore. Some people thought it wouldn't be a close game. It was. Some people knew that even if it's not a close game, it means a lot because you got former MVPs going against each other. And we all know, like, players show who they are in big games. So him not even throwing the ball once to Clyde Edwards-Helaire in a big game tells me that, it was all hoopla over the summer saying, yeah, we're going to pass the ball to the running backs more. When it came game time, he didn't do it. He didn't throw the ball. Didn't throw the ball to Clyde. So how can I expect him to look for those the rest of the big games they have the rest of the season? Now, to your point, it is Kansas City. They're going to have blowouts. They're going to have moments where they're running down the clock, and Clyde might sneak a touchdown in here or there. But as you've heard all of us yell at you all year, Chip, running backs are supposed to be consistent, right? That's why you got them on your team, for consistency, because you don't know if a wide receiver is going to do it. You need that consistent running back in your lineup. You can't – everybody was yelling at you for not drafting a running back early. Well, he's not showing the consistency right now. So to your point, like maybe running backs aren't as consistent as we thought. Or maybe just Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't as consistent as we thought, which is more where I'm at. So, again, if he's an RB2, I would trade him while you can. Try to trade him if you can, because I don't even know if anybody wants him.
If you can, I'll tell you what. If you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire in your league and you think that he's not performing and you think you're low on him, trade him to me. I will take great care of him. He'll sit in my spot and running back all year. He'll collect me the points. He'll win me the league because I don't have a running back. I'll have a running back and the best quarterback and tight end and 2 of the top 10 wide receivers, and it's going to be over.
My next point I want to make is Darrell Williams got the goal line touchdown last week. So Clyde's not even – to your point, Tyreek goes down on the 1. I don't even know if they'd give it to Clyde. They might not. Mahomes probably would rush it in before Clyde does, or probably throw to Kelce to your point. We talked about in Tampa Bay that 2/3 rule, and then you bumped up the numbers to 4. That doesn't help. That doesn't help it. That actually makes it less odds for him to provide. There's a reason we don't pick up any other wide receiver on the Kansas City other than Tyreek and Kelce because they get all the work. I'm nervous. If you got Clyde, you can play him in the flex on a good matchup. Other than that, I don't want him.
I do very much enjoy that you called Travis Kelce a wide receiver there because he truly is a wide receiver that you can play in your tight end spot. But Ryan, what do we got here?
So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he was the prize jewel of last year's draft class for running backs. He was the running back for the LSU Tigers going all the way to the championship. Had this Maurice Jones-Drew, small guy but powerful, shifty, could catch balls out of the backfield. you always thought he would be a great NFL fit. He'd be a good third down back to start, maybe be the lead back for you at some point. And then when he gets drafted to the Chiefs, you think, oh my gosh, match made in heaven, fantasy heaven, first round pick, top 5. He's going to be the greatest thing. Jamal Charles, all these things, all these wonderful things. And for some reason last year, it just never seemed to click. For whatever reason, Andy Reid's offense has always functioned around Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and their passing attack. And for good reason, for very good reason. I mean, their results speak for themselves. They use running backs in like a timeshare where they'll have Darrell Williams come out or Le'Veon Bell or other people, just insert name here, really, like Spencer Ware. Like they've always had like a spinning wheel of running backs.
Definitely.
For Clyde, but particularly for Clyde this year, the start has been very concerning. Matt, it was a great point about him not getting a single target. I did not know that. I know that he had 2.6 points, and the Darrell Williams getting the ball at the goal line. That's really concerning. You want your lead back to be getting touches at the goal line. You want him to be getting touchdowns. And if he's not getting passes either, it's not a good look. But I would not be trying to trade Clyde right now. I'd let him rebuild his value, but I don't think he's ever going to live up to that RB1 like ceiling that we all hope for. And maybe not even RB2. I think he's more of like a flex play. So with relative to his draft position, I am out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
You're panicking?
I'm panicking. I'm panicking relative to draft position. I mean, in the fumble at the end of the game, that's another big thing that I didn't mention. The fumble at the end of the game, that's inexcusable. That lost them a game. That's something that coaches sit on. He'll have the entire week to think about that. And
and
just the way that their offense functions, I just don't think Clyde's ever going to be, like what we hoped he would be.
So, Chip, you win that one. All right, I'll give it to you. We each won one. Final one here. Last one.
What? You just said he's panicking.
Oh, shoot.
No,
yeah, I was panicking.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I won that one. 2-0.
Yeah, I was about to say, Matt, come on.
You just had to rub it in, right? You have to keep. You got the fantasy victory. You got the first, and now you're gonna rub this one in.
I was looking at our next guy, and I see and I gave it away who's panicking here on the next one. My bad, and that's where I got to mix up. All right, so let's see if you can redeem yourself on this last one here. George Kittle, 9.8 points week 1 and 3.7 points week 2. So this one's interesting because of that 9.8 points week 1. That's a good tight end week. I know that's not a George Kittle week, but that's a tight end week. That's a good safe tight end week. So some people might say he doesn't even qualify here, but still just wasn't the normal George Kittle. So are we panicking on George Kittle the way it is? I say let's be patient here. 2018, week 2, Kittle puts up a whopping 4.2 points against Detroit. Detroit Lions in 2018 puts up 4.2 points in week 2. So we're kind of sitting at the same position right there. He went on to finish that season as a tight end number 2, killing it like George Kittle does. The next year, 2019, against Baltimore, 3.4 points early on in the season. Went on to finish as the tight end number 3. We've seen this time and time again. Kittle dominates the season when healthy. He will have a bad game, 1 or 2. He's a tight end. It's going to happen. We talked about it. You don't want your tight end to lose you the week. Yeah, he might have 1 bad game out of the 16, but he's still George Kittle. He will, he eats with his hands. He'll figure his way out to get down the field. This past week, he was on the field for 100% of snaps. So that shows me the team is not changing their tactics. They know their man. They know who they got. Next, they got Green Bay coming up next week. As much as it pains me to say it, he always dominates on Green Bay. So I expect him coming back. This is a guy that I have tried and will continue to try to trade for right now. Coming off a 3.7 week and a 9.8 week, barely staying below double digits, 2 back-to-back single-digit weeks. I want to get him on my team if you don't have him. We talked about the value of having a top tight end like a George Kittle, somebody you can plug in and not have to play the waiver game with. He's somebody that just got to be patient. He'll do his thing. San Francisco knows what they're doing, and I trust the coaching system.
Matt, are you just trying to help me right now? Are you trying to build my argument for me? It seems like everything you just said is what I'm going to use to tell you exactly why I have never been more panicked about someone than George Kittle. That might be an overreaction, but I am very much panicking about him, right? You draft a tight end in the first 2 or 3 rounds, you're looking to get the best or second best tight end in the game. You are not looking to worry, oh my God, is this the week that Kelsey can figure it out? Is this the week that Kittle can figure it out? Like, man, he just had 3 points last week. I sure hope that this doesn't happen again. And like you said, this happens every year, right? Every year he drops games and he's not 100% in a couple of games. And that is not what I'm looking for when I draft a tight end in the first 2 or 3 rounds. I'm looking for a Travis Kelce who's going to give me 20 or more points each game. To your point about his usage, right? He played in 95% or more of snaps in the last 2 games. First one was about 95. Second one was 100%. You know how many targets he got in those 2 games, Matt?
I do, but share it.
He got 4 in the first one, 5 in the second one, and he caught 4 passes in each one. I think that if you are looking at a guy who's playing every single snap in a game and he's getting 4 targets, for a guy that you are looking to win your league because he is a tight end that is supposed to be getting wide receiver numbers, that is terrifying. I do not want to sit every week and wonder, is the guy that I drafted in the second round, third round, is he going to get me enough points to keep me in this game? When you draft a tight end, there's some uncertainty, right? Especially if you're drafting him in around 6, 7, 8. Like, you're looking at guys who, you're taking a gamble. You're saying, all right, I like this guy maybe week 1, week 2, but we're going to be streaming tight ends all year trying to pick the guy who's going to get me the points. I do not look for that from a George Kittle in his first 2 weeks, not putting up big numbers. I'm scared. I'm frightened. Ryan, I pray to God you feel the same way, because if I go 3-0 here, I don't know if I can come back on the show. But what do you have to say, Ryan?
All right, Chip, I'll put your anxiety at ease. I'm with you. I'm concerned. I'm panicked. I'm with you. Right now, George Kittle is in between Jack Doyle and Max Williams in terms of tight ends position ranked. He has 5 targets and 4 targets, like you guys were just talking about, through the first 2 weeks, despite 100% snap percentage. It's just concerning. He gets all this praise as a run blocker and everything like that, and he's still this amazing tight end. And you anticipate him to be getting like touchdowns and producing more for you relative to his draft position, because like Chip said, he's about a 3rd round pick, ADP. And at that point, you want to be getting the Waller types. You want to be getting the TJ Hawkinson. You want to be getting even somebody like Noah Fant or Logan Thomas, who are outproducing him so far. And I think relative to draft position, I think George Kittle is lagging behind, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned about him.
Would you trade him?
It feels good to get a win. I tell you what. After last week, after the last 2, it feels good to get a win.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, would you trade him if you were a George Kittle owner? Trade the name while you still can.
It would. I mean, obviously, it would depend on who I'm trading him for, but I wouldn't be actively trying to get. I don't ever want to trade somebody at their lowest value. I think that he's had a couple of bad weeks. Like, I'm thinking that he would bounce back, but it's still just concerning these first 2 weeks. Just a low target share, and I think that San Fran's a really good team. I think their defense is going to hold other teams to, like, they're not going to. It's not going to be shootouts, and I think they're going to be focused on running the ball and using George Kittle as a blocker, than more of a like wide receiver type like Waller and Kelsey, who basically line up as a receiver every single time they're out there.
Well, they might need to find a running back if they want to run the ball, because Trey Sermon went out too.
Oh, no. They got like 4 guys on the practice squad that Kyle Shanahan is just dying to put out there. Jeff Wilson, insert name here. Anybody off the practice squad.
Didn't you get a phone call about like popping over to San Fran?
Yeah, so actually, they don't play in San Francisco. They play a little bit further south in San Jose. So they knew that I was here. They gave me a call, and they're like, "Hey, man, like, we're running low."
They told you to be ready.
Yeah, they said don't go all in on Elijah Mitchell on your waiver bid this week. We don't know. Maybe we're going to call you up. So I'm still holding out. We're going to see how that goes.
Did you give them just talk to my agent type? Got to play hard to get.
It's been a while since I've had an NFL snap, so I'll let them know I was ready to play. But
all right.
San Fran actually did just sign the Bengals running back off their practice squad, Jacquez Patrick, today.
Oh wow!
No lie. So yeah, they're already. Kyle Shanahan's got his eye. He's ready. Yeah. He's ready to show he can make it work with anybody.
All right, let's do a speed round real quick. I'm gonna say the name, and then I'm gonna go to Chip, then to Ryan. Tell me if you're worried, yes or no. Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, I'm not worried about. He's going to figure it out. Got great weapons. They're going to be just fine up there in Buffalo.
Ryan?
I'm with Chip. Not worried at all. He's had two basically average weeks. I know you expect more out of the guy who finished second amongst quarterbacks last year, but I look for him to bounce back.
I agree. I'm not worried. James Robinson, Chip?
James Robinson, again, not worried. New head coach coming in, rookie quarterback. I think a lot of factors have not been in his favor. I think you give him a couple weeks. He's not gonna be the best running back in the game, but he's gonna give you consistent points to be your RB2, your flex. You're gonna be comfortable playing him here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Ryan.
For me, I am concerned about James Robinson. I think he's going to fall victim to game script. I think Jacksonville is maybe a top or probably one of the worst 3 teams in the league. I think they're going to be playing from behind a lot. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence throwing to Marvin Jones Jr., Laviska Shenault, and DJ Chark a lot, and Carlos Hyde coming in and taking snaps away from James Robinson. So I do not like the outlook for James Robinson moving forward.
So my thing, I'm with Chip. I'm not really panicked, only because Carlos Hyde isn't getting as many snaps as I thought he would. So I was good to see that. He's still getting involved. You're right, Ryan. And to your point of the game script, I'm hoping. I mean, last year Jacksonville was terrible. That's why they had the number 1 pick. And James Robinson was obviously won some people some leagues. I agree with Chip. He's not going to be the same James Robinson he was, but you still got time. All right, sorry, quicker. Allen Robinson. Yes or no?
Robinson, I am a little bit worried. Quarterback situation there is a little bit uneasy. Is Andy Dalton going to play? Is Justin Fields, how's he going to do? So we'll see how it goes. I'm a little bit worried. I'm not selling him yet, but I'm worried.
Ryan?
Same story with his whole career. When he started out with Blake Bortles, it's always been quarterback play that has held back Allen Robinson. He's a great receiver, runs great routes, good hands. Honestly, if he's in a different situation with a different quarterback, I think he's a wide receiver 1 in terms of his talent, but he's always fallen victim to bad quarterback play. And I thought Andy Dalton actually started off strong in his first drive. He led the Bears down and scored a touchdown. And then, of course, he goes out and gets injured. And Justin Fields looked really shaky in that game. I think it's going to take him time to figure stuff out. But, I'm down on Allen Robinson.
Definitely going to come down to quarterback play. I got him on my team. I'm keeping him in. We'll see how it goes. Claypool, yes or no?
Claypool, not super worried. They lost Deontay Johnson. Potentially, we're not sure how hurt he is, how long he's going to be out, if he'll be out at all. I think he'll be just fine. For where you drafted him, you know what you're getting. He's a flex play. He's maybe a wide receiver 2. You're going to be just fine playing him.
You worried, Ryan, on Claypool?
Claypool, very talented receiver, part of the 3 wide receiver set in Pittsburgh. I think that offense is really struggling to start, and the offensive line play is really poor. Ben does not look good. I'm a little concerned, but relative to where you drafted him and where you need him as a flex bench option, it shouldn't be too big of a deal on your team.
Yeah, I think the big thing is Deontay's out. They got Cincinnati this week. He can definitely catch a couple touchdowns. That's what he does. Not just this week, but any week. Yeah, I'm not worried yet. 8.5 and 8.2 points each week. That's solid for a flex guy. All right, this next one, I think we might all be in unison on this one. Can we just let's all say it on the count of 3. I'll give you the name and then I'll count to 3. Yes or no? Brandon Ayuk. 1, 2, 3.
Out.
Yes.
No.
We didn't know what to say. We all say the same thing.
What are we doing here?
I meant to say yes. I'm panicked. You're out.
I'm out.
I think we're all out.
I'm out.
Yeah, you said no as in no, you don't want to play him. Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to play Brandon Ayuk. Are you dropping
get him out
him
of
for
here.
waivers, though? Are you dropping him?
Tough to say. I'm not dropping him.
You're an owner right now. That's the question.
Who do you got on your bench? Do you have space for him? Who are you dropping him for? I'm not dropping him. I'm gonna see what happens, but I'm definitely not feeling good.
Yeah, of course. Okay, last one. I threw this one on there because this is a personal one. Not personal, but Robbie Anderson. 12 points week 1, but only 1 catch. He had 1 catch for a big touchdown. That was all of his fantasy points in week 1. And then week 2, only 2 targets and only 5 points. No touchdown week 2. You worried, Chip, yes or no?
I'm not worried. The guy's shown that he's pretty much quarterback proof. I think it's just going to take a new quarterback getting used to the offense, getting used to throwing to him. He's going to be just fine.
Ryan?
No, I'm not worried. He's always been a big play guy. I think in this past game against the Saints, it was game script. The Panthers were up 17-0 really early in the game and basically committed to Christian McCaffrey from that point moving forward. And yeah, I'm not too worried about him. I think he's always going to be a big play guy.
Definitely like a boomer bust guy. You got to pick the right week to throw him in. It's just scary to pick which week. All right, let's move on to our flex segment, flexing on them, always trying to flex on them to really pick a good flex play on some of the deeper leagues. We went 100% week 1 last week. We were each 1 for 2. So on the year, we're 3 for 4 each, 6 for 8 as a show. A lot of math coming at you, sorry. But last week, I had – who did I have? Tim Patrick was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Got a touchdown just like I thought he would.
Yeah, he did.
He was on the waivers, probably on the waivers the most. And then my other guy was Jacoby Myers, who got a lot of targets, had a drop in the end zone that would have gave him what I wanted, only like 5 points. Who'd you have last week?
I had Jamar Chase. Jamar puts up a nice 12.5. If you got him in your flex spot, you're super happy about that.
Yeah.
If your name is Trip Patterson and you listen to my advice and I texted you specifically and said, if you don't play AB in your flex, I'm going to throw up. You're probably not pretty happy because I said AB. He puts up like 0.2 points. Got a nice frowny face text message from Trip on Sunday after I went out of my way to advise him to play AB. So I do want to publicly apologize for that, not only to just Trip, but to our viewers in general. That's on me.
There you go. Hey, we miss one every once in a while, right? It happens. It's going to happen. We can't go 100%. But this week, we're not going to miss one. Here we go. For this week's flex segment, I'll start it off. I got Chase Edmonds. I love throwing running backs in the flex when you know that they can perform for you. He's going to get the volume to at least be a decent flex. He's not going to lose you the week, but he just might win you the week this week because they play Jacksonville. We've talked about Jacksonville. My flex ideas are always looking for the matchups. They play Jacksonville. Jacksonville gave up so much in the past 2 weeks to both sets of running backs. Let me remind you who they played. Houston week 1. So Mark Ingram threw away his Keenan Walker and still scored so many fantasy points. That whole squad with Mark Ingram, David Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, and Houston ran all over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Next week was Denver with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, both putting up 8 points each. They split time. If that was one running back getting the full work, that would have been a great week on it. So Arizona is one of the best rushing teams. Even if Kyler vultures some of the end zone touchdowns, I still think Edmonds gets in the end zone as well. The game script is going to have the Cardinals, just running all over Jacksonville, and they're probably going to have to run out the ball in the end. He gets so many targets every week, so that calls for a high floor. And I think in this game especially, he's got the high ceiling. So he's somebody I would love to throw in a flex.
Man, you want to talk about matchups. The guy that I got for my first flex pick, this matchup every single year, no matter how good, no matter how bad the teams are, it's always a high-scoring affair. They're always getting after it, looking to bring the other one down, big rivalry game. Sort of. It's Cincinnati Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got Juju. I like Juju coming in your flex spot. Like I said, Deontay Johnson goes down. Juju's had some pretty good weeks back-to-back, and I think his numbers only go up from here. So I like him in a flex spot this week, looking to get you some big numbers.
All right, my next one is Sterling Shepard. 9 targets week 1, 10 targets week 2, both against pretty good defenses in Denver and Washington. Now he's going to get up against Atlanta. I think I have to pick whoever's playing against Atlanta has to be in my flex segment every week because that's apparently what we do. So he's going up against Atlanta after a nail-biting loss against Washington. I think Danny Dimes has something to prove. He's going to continue targeting what looks like to be his favorite guy. So many targets in both week 1 and week 2. Against good defenses, now going against a bad defense, I think it's a pretty safe play. Go ahead, Chip.
So for mine, I want to do a little math with you before we go, before I tell you mine. 2 halves equal a whole, right? So 2 sort of cheating on the flex plays, that makes 1 whole flex play. So I'm going to take that opportunity to do a little math, give you 2 options. Number 1, I like OBJ. He's coming back this week. I don't feel confident enough to put him in a full wide receiver slot. I want to make sure I have someone else there who's going to get me points. But I love OBJ as a high upside play. Put him in your flex and just watch that Browns game. Watch him go crazy. The guy he's a showman. He loves to get out there, make noise, get in fights with nets, crazy one-handed catches. He's out there to put on a show. If he's playing, that means he's back. He's healthy enough to be out there. And I look for him to put up some good points. My next one, this is more of a league-specific one because I'm not sure how many leagues he is a flex play. But if you have Tony Pollard on your team, what's that?
In some deep leagues for sure. He
definitely absolutely. So if you have Tony Pollard on your team, he should be in your starting lineup. He has shown you these last 2 weeks that he deserves a spot in your starting lineup. If you have Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard on your team, I think that you play Tony Pollard. I'm not saying don't play Zeke, but I think, you put him in your flex spot at least because, they showed last week they can both work well together. But it is very clear that Tony Pollard is a fantastically talented running back who's looking to make some noise, make his own name for himself, and eventually take over as that lead back in Dallas. And I think that he is doing everything he can to get there. He looks great. He's putting up points, and he's a flex play for me.
Nice. All right, Ryan, yes, anything to add about all of our flex plays? What do you think?
So the Tony Pollard one, that's cold-blooded, Chip. We all know what you're doing. Come on. Trolling my cousin like that. That's just cruel. That's cruel. But my flex play is Mike Williams of
nice.
The LA Chargers.
Yeah.
He's been wide receiver, I think a top 5 play so far. He's had 12 targets, 82 yards and a touchdown, 10 targets, 91 yards and a touchdown so far. And the Chargers are coming up against the Chiefs in this next week's game. So I expect a high-scoring affair, and I can expect Mike to continue putting up big numbers.
Wonderful. Yeah, here's somebody I considered for this. I think it's a great flex. Mike Williams, wonderful option. All right, let's get into the Thursday night preview and round out the show. We got Carolina Panthers versus the Houston Texans. What do we got for the Vegas line?
Vegas is telling us Carolina -8, and the total is set at 43. So they're not looking for a whole lot of points, but they're looking for Carolina to take it easy.
You taking that -8? What do you think?
I think I am. You probably looked at the show doc before we got started. I did not know this until about 10 minutes before we started the show. Tyrod Taylor, going down. I just wasn't in the loop on that. That's an offense that's been looking really good, and the question had to be asked: is this a legit offense? But now I'm a little bit let down. I don't get to see that. Going to be some other quarterback in there. Maybe it's not a quarterback thing. Maybe it's an offense thing. We'll see how it goes down. But I trust CMC. I trust Robbie Anderson. I trust them to put up some points and get a nice DJ Moore, get a nice comfortable cover in, and take home a victory on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm taking that -8 spread, -8. I always say negative. Math teacher, sorry. I take that -8 spread for Carolina. I think. Yeah, especially with Tyrod out. I was actually, when I saw this game listed for week 3 as a Thursday night game at the start of the season, I was like, oh no, right after we just had the Giants in Washington, now we have Carolina and Houston. What is happening Thursday night? But then when I saw Tyrod, I was like, okay, it could be a fun game to watch still. And now with Tyrod out, I'm back to this. I don't know how fun this one is going to be to watch. I have Brandon Cooks on a lot of my teams because he was just left for dead in drafts. And both weeks he finished with double-digit 15 to 18 points. And I'm worried now. I wasn't starting him either way this week, just personally on my team. But without Tyrod, I don't know how he's going to look. Brandon Cooks might join the rest of his teammates in the fantasy waiver wire. But if Tyrod's out indefinitely. But I am starting DJ Moore. This is the first week I'm putting him in my lineup. He's had 2 amazing weeks on my bench. I think 17 points week 1, 18 points week 2. He's playing against Houston's defense. And not only he's not like he just scored a touchdown, he had a lot of targets. So I'm throwing DJ Moore in at the starting wide receiver 2 spot this week. But I think this is going to be a bloodbath. I think Carolina's going to take him. What do you think, Chip?
Yeah, originally what I'd written down was, Battle of the Titans, just 2 fantastically not that great teams going at each other. I think it should bode well for your fantasy plays, mostly on Carolina side. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, obviously CMC is going to get his every week, but I think he has an exceptionally good week this week because they're going to be running the ball so much. So it should be a good fantasy game. I don't know how much fun it's going to be to watch.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to be wrong about that. I'd love a good game. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, definitely. And the Carolina defense has looked like the real deal. Like they played great. The defense looks good. A lot of interceptions, a lot of everything. So they're 2-0 right now. After this win, they could be 3-0. Carolina going 3-0 would not have called that at the beginning of the season. So I'm curious to see. I had in the doc, is Carolina's defense the real deal? I don't know if this matchup proves anything. A rookie quarterback against it with a really bad offense. So I almost retract that statement. So even if they do good, I wouldn't say they're the real deal. Ryan, you looking for anything in specifically with this Carolina-Houston game?
So I would understand where you guys are coming from when you're saying take the 8 points right off the bat. It's so hard to handicap games with a rookie quarterback starting, especially Davis Mills. Like, yeah. I don't think anybody – I did a little research on him the other day, and I think he only played 10 games at Stanford before, so he really doesn't even have much like stuff to go off even in college.
Yeah.
The Carolinas look good. Their first 2 games, they played the Jets and the Saints and taking care of business in both of those games. I expect them to take care of business, but I think that 8 points, it's screaming backdoor cover for me. I think Texans at home possibly come in and take that. But yeah, what a weird game. Thursday night. All the games have been so weird so far between New York and Washington, and then now this one. But yeah, odd game.
Every primetime game has been close, like all the way back to
they've been close games for sure.
Cowboys, Washington, and New York, and then Monday night's game wasn't close. I guess against the Lions, closer than we thought maybe, but Ravens and Baltimore, yeah, it's been fun to watch in primetime. So hopefully that train keeps going.
Yeah, to me, this game just screams Sunday afternoon. You're kind of dozing off a little bit when they bring it up on Red Zone. You're like, my God, turn this off. Like, there's a touchdown about to be scored somewhere else. I don't care. But now it's the only game we have to watch on Thursday night.
Preach.
So we have to watch it.
Take it for what it is. And you have to watch it. You don't have a choice.
Now that we run this podcast, we have to, because we have to be able to talk about it come next week. So, my goodness. All right, well, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you so much to Ryan Cunningham for joining us today. Ryan, we loved having you. Thanks for deciding some ties here.
It was a pleasure to be here, boys. Keep doing the good work.
Oh, we will.
Ryan, there's no one else I'd rather have as our first guest on here. So knowledgeable, great fantasy mind, got a fantastic team, just all around great guy. Glad to have you on.
I know this isn't the last time. Oh, yeah. This is not the last time you're going to be on here, Ryan. We'll have you back. We love having your input, so thank you so much. For Ryan and everybody else listening, I'm Matt Russell. Got my co-hosts.
Chip Sparks.
And this is Fantasy Fuel. We appreciate you all, and we'll see you next week.